Hello guys, hi, it's Marek here and welcome to another episode of Photoshop Lightroom TV, your video podcast about anything Photoshop, Lightroom, photography and Adobe technologies related. Last week I remind you, or 2 weeks ago, about the new release of Lightroom 5 Beta, which is available as public download. I hope you've downloaded it already and you're playing around with it already. There are loads of really great features, lots of fantastic features. There's lots of videos of the new features as well on the web. So I'll be showing you some other tutorials. My first video tutorial is going to be in Adobe Camera Raw. Here's a question I often get from the delegates on my Lightroom courses or from people interested in Lightroom and photography as well, or in Photoshop as well. Is if they use Photoshop, how can they synchronize settings they apply to one image? Like for example, if they edit one image and they add a vignette, they convert it to black and white, maybe increase the contrast, how could they synchronize it across a number of images? And that's what I'm going to show you in Adobe Camera Raw, which comes with Photoshop and with Bridge as well. I'm going to use Adobe Bridge for a change, so you don't have to launch Photoshop to make these changes. And remember, with Camera Raw you can open JPEGs as well. So let's jump into Adobe Camera Raw and let's see how we can quickly edit an image and then synchronize it across a number of images. I've got this group of images in here, and let's say I want them all to be black and white and have vignettes, maybe add some other features. So what I can do, obviously, also by the way, I'll be using Adobe Camera Raw, even though they're JPEGs, because you can now edit JPEGs with Adobe Camera Raw as well. Well, not just now, we've been doing it since CS4 as far as I remember. So I'm going to open one of the images in Camera Raw. So I'll just right click on the image in Bridge and open Camera Raw. Now I'm not opening Photoshop, I'm just opening Adobe Camera Raw here in Bridge. Okay, I'm just going to toggle F to make a window a bit smaller, just so you can see the entire Camera Raw window here. And I'm going to start quickly customizing it. So I'm going to, let's see, nothing here for now. Just going to jump to the HSL grayscale for now, and I'll convert it to grayscale. And now I'm going to play with the colors, so because there are some reds here. Actually, I'm going to leave it as default because I'll be working with different images. Okay, lens corrections. I'm going to tick enable lens profile corrections. Anything here? Not much. That should be okay. That's the lens, that's fine. Default, that's okay. Now I'm going to jump to effects and I'll add some vignetting here. Just a bit of vignetting on the edges. Okay. Midpoint, I'll leave it as this. Roundness, I'm going to keep all the other settings on the defaults. Now let's add a bit more contrast. So I'll go to the tone curve, back to tone curve. I'm going to add a bit more contrast. I'm going to brighten the highlights. There aren't many highlights in here, just this guy in here, but we got some shadows. I'm going to darken a bit, and the darks, here we go. And now I'm going to save it as a preset. So I'm going to go to here to presets. I'll create a new preset in here. I'm going to give it a name. So this will be black and white, and let's say vignette as well. I'm going to keep everything checked in here, so I'll click OK. Then I'll click Done. Now what you can do is, once you've got this preset, oh by the way, I'm going to reset it, so I'm going to right click on the image back in here in Bridge, and now choose Develop Settings and Clear Settings. Okay. Now when it comes to synchronizing, I'm going to select all of these images in here. I will open them in Camera Raw, so right click, open in Camera Raw here in Adobe Bridge. They all open here in the slide. Okay. And it's a number of things we could do. For example, I can click Select All, go to Presets tab, and just click on the preset. Black and white vignette, that's the one. And all the images will have the preset applied. Okay. But here's another thing we can do. I'm going to cancel here. Okay. I'm going to open the Camera Raw once again. I'll just select one image in Camera Raw for now, the one I used earlier, this one here. Okay, I'll go to presets and I'll apply the preset. Okay, Now, with this image selected, I'm going to select all the other images. Now, because this is not the first image, I'm going to use the Control key, or you could use Command key on the Mac to select all the other images. Here we go. And I'm going to click Synchronize here. Synchronize becomes available. So I'll click Synchronize. I've got all these options selected. I'll click OK. And now all the images will synchronize in exactly the same way. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed it. This tutorial, I've got one more for you. The other tutorial is going to be in Photoshop. Don't worry, we'll have some Lightroom tutorials next week. Don't worry about that. And I'm going to have a tip of the week for you as well. There will be a tip, and this will be a Photoshop tip. But first, in Photoshop. And here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a technique where you can clip an image to shapes, to a number of shapes, so the image only shows through the shapes, and how to apply layer effects to the shapes. So for example, how to add a bevel and emboss or a drop shadow to the shapes. Because now in Photoshop CS6 you can apply layer effects and layer styles to a group of layers, and you can also clip an image to a layer group. Very nice, something interesting, very good in Photoshop CS6. I'm going to unlock the background layer by just double clicking. Oh, actually, I'll give you a tip as well. I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to hold the Alt key down and I'll double click on the background image to unlock it. And so the dialog box doesn't come up, so I don't need to give it a name. This is a tip that I'll be talking about later on. Now, I'm going to add some shapes. I've got a custom shape tool here already selected. Okay, and I'm going to use this shape. Now, if you don't have as many shapes as I do here, click on this gear icon at the top right corner. Then you can choose from all different sorts of shapes, or you can just click all. If you're just using a standard set of shapes, and when you choose all, you're going to see the message saying whether you want to append them or replace. If you're using standard shapes, just replace the current set with the new ones, and you get all these shapes in here. So I'm using this shape here. I gave it some fill color, which is not important because we won't see it. And I've got a stroke, which we won't see either. So you can use any color you want. I'm going to create a couple of shapes. Now, as I start dragging out, I'm going to hold the Shift key down to keep it into a straight shape. So I've got one here, maybe another one here, one bigger one here as well, maybe another one, just a couple of shapes. Another tip for you, as you hold your mouse button down before you release it, if you press and hold spacebar, you can hold the spacebar down, you can reposition the object. I'm going to put one here, and maybe, okay, that will be enough. So I've got, now, oh, by the way, in the options bar, I had my shape tool set to shape. So what I'm creating are shapes. So I've got 5 shape layers in Photoshop here, in the layers panel. Okay, so I'm using shape option. Something that's new in Photoshop CS6 is you can now clip an image layer to a group, and you can also apply layer effects or layer styles to a group. First, I'm going to duplicate the background layer. So I'll just use Ctrl J or Command J to duplicate it. I'm going to drag it to the top. Okay, I'm going to blur this background image just a bit in just a moment. For now, I'm going to group all the shape layers, so I'll select all of them, and I'll press Ctrl G or Command G, or if you prefer using menu, it's Layer, Group Layers. Okay, this will group the layers. This is my group of shapes. Now I'm going to clip the layer on the top to the group. You can either hold the Alt key down or Option key and click in between the layers, or you can also right click and choose Create Clipping Mask. Okay. I'm just going to hide this layer for a moment so you can see what's going on. Now I've got this image clipped to the group, so this image only shows through the group, through the shapes. Okay, these shapes in here, which can easily be repositioned because they all own their own separate layers. I'm going to keep it for now. First, I'm going to blur the background a bit. I'm going to convert it to a smart object first, so I'll just right click on it and convert to smart object, and I'll blur it with the Gaussian blur filter. just a few pixels, 3 pixels is just fine. Okay, you may start seeing something going on, like in here, this part of the image is not blurred, and neither is this one here. Now the best part. Now, with the layer group selected, I'm going to add some layer effects to it. For example, bevel and emboss, which will give us a nice interesting effect. So just bevel and emboss, and here you go. Now you start seeing what's going on here. You start seeing them. It's going to soften it a bit, so it looks more like water ripples. Okay. Okay, we're almost done. Just one more thing left, the tip of the week. And one thing I wanted to mention to you is, remember, Adobe recently announced a new, could be a feature to Photoshop, the camera shake reduction. If you haven't seen it, have a look on my blog at PhotoshopLightroomBridge.co.uk and you'll find a video about it and the article about it as well. This might be a feature that may appear in the future releases of Photoshop. Maybe. It may appear in the next update for Creative Cloud members. Adobe haven't confirmed it yet. And yeah, we'll see. Now the tip of the week for you. This will be a Photoshop tip of the week. I mentioned it in the tutorial. If you double click on the background layer in the layers panel, you can unlock it. And at the same time you can give it a name. Now here's the tip. If you want to unlock the background layer and you don't want to rename it, or you don't want to see the dialog box, just hold down the Alt key or the Option key on a Mac when you double click on the background layer. This will convert your background layer to a regular layer. You won't see a dialog box, and you will just see layer 0 or layer 1. That's it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. This was PhotoshopLightroomTV, and I'm Marek Mularczyk. Have a look on my website, marekmularczyk.com. There will be a link here at the bottom of the screen. And I hope to see you next time or in the next episode. Thank you. Bye bye.